In this video, I will be explaining to you in detail how exactly intelligence agencies work and why they are an underutilized aspect of this game. We'll focus on being as informative and concise as possible. I hope to give you the understanding you need to make use of these tools and enjoy an aspect of World War II which has become the stuff of legend since. I'm Hammurabae, let's get going. To start off with, you'll need to make your agency, which requires 5 civilian factories for 30 days. This is a high cost in the beginning, but the earlier you start, the better. Let's choose your first agent. Let's briefly cover the agency screen before I go more into detail on its components later. Your counterintelligence level is the overarching difficulty of other nations trying to infiltrate your country and take action against it. This makes their missions less likely to succeed, so it's incredibly important. Becoming Spy Master is doable if you are in a faction, requiring 50 political power and 3 agency upgrades already completed. It gives more operatives based on your fellow faction members' factory count, but it will always give at least 1. Below this is the agency upgrade menu. Click on any of the folders to see all of your options. These give various bonuses, each having a corresponding civilian industry cost for 30 days until completed. Your operatives show you how many you have available, how many are currently captured, as well as how many you have lost in the course of the game. And lastly, the operations and cryptology tabs. Operations is where you start missions once you have a spy network built in another country, and cryptology allows you to crack enemy codes, giving you a passive bonus when complete and a short active one if used. Operatives are similar to generals and admirals, as they have traits, levels, and should be focused on heavily to win wars. They can be captured or killed, so keep that in mind when using operations. A captured spy who is not killed will still take up an operative slot but be unable to do anything until he is killed, recruited by your enemy, or rescued through an operation. Your agents only have 2 levels, with level 2 giving you bonuses noted below. Upon completion of your agency, you will have access to 1 agent. Only having 1 does not allow you to do much besides counterintelligence or building a spy network in another country alone. If captured, you will not be able to get them back, as a rescue operation requires another agent, meaning you need 2 total. 2 is really the number you want to get if you want to do anything with intelligence, as it's the minimum for infiltration and missions. To get more, you can attain them through a few different ways. 5 agency upgrades will give you 1 extra, but you get no further slots through further upgrades. Some political advisors will give you an extra agent, as well as a few different focuses. If you get lucky, a random reader trait can also give you an extra one. You get the rest if you really want to focus on intel by taking the Spy Master trait. This requires you to be in a faction and immediately gives you an extra agent. It can be based on the factory count of each different nation in the faction, which you can see here. Agents like generals get traits. They can either start with them when you recruit, where you will be able to pick and choose what you want, or you can get them later. Which trait you want is dependent on how you intend to use your agency. Overall, double agents are fantastic as they give bonuses to missions and operations of the country they are originally from. Getting a double agent on a major country you plan to invade is huge. Similar to how Brilliant Strategist is amazing for generals and cannot be learned, Seducer and Safecracker are the equivalents for agents. Seducer makes infiltrating civilian administration, army, navy, and air force easier and less risky, but its true value is a reduction in detection chance, making everything easier for them. Safecracker is also not learnable and gives you a big bonus to stealing blueprints, which is huge. If you play a lot of multiplayer games in particular, you really want to get this for your agents. Commando is very useful and, like Seducer, reduces detection chance as well as sabotage and cipher bonuses. It can only be learned after you have already taken Commando training, so I recommend getting it as one of your earlier upgrades. And lastly, Linguist, which if you get lucky is probably the best trait. After every successful mission, there is a 20% chance to get the nation's nationality, giving the effects of double agent bonuses. As mentioned before, there are 2 levels for agents. Upon reaching level 2, you will get some solid bonuses. Rushing level is not easy, but there are better ways for XP depending on whether you want to risk slower leveling or captured agents. It takes 1000 total XP to get to level 2. The first way is to simply run counterintelligence, which helps your defense anyways. You gain a small sum daily, seen in the chart here, which equals 42 XP a year. However, if you capture an enemy agent, you get a flat 100 XP, so it can be a lot. This route is dependent on agents being in your country. The more the better, as detection and therefore capture goes up based on the number of foreign operatives. make sure to get the interrogation technique agency upgrade, as well as to make this happen more often and get more XP. You can also do this in your allies. So for example, you know other countries are targeting Paris. You can send agents there to capture spies and grind XP. Do note though, that which agent active in a country on counterintelligence is 100% if you're getting one in terms of the XP. But if there's more than one, it is randomized who gets the experience for capturing the agent. Putting a level 1 agent in an area on counterintel with a level 2 agent, there is a chance that the level 2 agent does get the capture, wasting that XP. You also have a much lower chance to get the XP if in another country other than your own on counterintelligence. The downside is also the only useful trait you get is Linguist, which is still pretty solid but again based on chance, as well as Master Interrogator, which just isn't really that useful. The other way to get XP is building networks in other countries. Do note that quiet network building gives no XP at all, it's the regular kind you want to take. This is 1 XP per day, so 375 per year. Given that you need 1,000 total, it would take 2.6 years, assuming your spy does not get captured at some point. Obviously, the risk here, compared to counter intel, is that it can be interrupted or even captured or killed. These are simply 2 efficient ways to level. All operations give XP and have the added benefit of giving traits over time as well. Let's first cover building up a network in another country, as you need to do this for all operations. To do so, you need to select an agent and put them on Build Intel Network by clicking the button and left-clicking the nation's capital you want to build one in. An agent adds 0.4 network every day they are assigned there, aka 12% a month. You can, in order to speed it up, place more than 1 agent in that area, which is quicker. Placing them in the same place makes them less efficient though, so you can get a higher national level quicker. It's much better to put them in other major cities around the country, as you will get more in all states over time. This is mainly important due to the fact that having a network in a state gives you an invasion speed and planning bonus in it, while giving the other country a minus 100% planning max and minus 5 entrenchment. Adjacent regions with full or part network make it spread quicker in adjacent regions, much like resistance. When you have built up a network to 100% optimally after getting the whole country's regions up to that point, put them in as central as region as possible on quiet network to maintain what you have. Doing this in a country like Russia isn't possible, but for one like France it is with just 1 agent. Many operations are locked behind a certain percentage to use. It also gives you intel and combat bonuses. Networks are probably one of the most overlooked features alongside intelligence itself in HOI4 besides Navy. Intelligence agencies allow you to do lots of shock and awe things like blowing up infrastructure, killing governments, etc. But one of the most potent abilities is also its most simple. Intelligence gained through a network and through the infiltrate civilian administration, Navy, Army, and Air Force respectively allow you to see everything about a country. It may seem like cheating, but it requires a good amount of resources to invest to get to this point, so it is worthwhile. Do note that you can get inaccurate numbers above or below what they really are. Having a max network, infiltrating operations allow the numbers to become more exact. After infiltrating the country, right-click on it and go to the Intel Ledger tab to see all this information. Especially useful to note here is their convoy count, manpower left, factories, fleet design and composition, and plane usage. You will not get max intel immediately, as it is gained through spy network, radar, being at war through time, ciphers, agency upgrades, and spy planes, though you really only need network upgrades, as well as being at war to get an accurate reading over time. If you're a Navophile like me, high levels you can see where fleets are deployed and how many, as well as what ports they are docked in. In multiplayer especially, this is an incredibly useful tool. The AI in HOI4 do all the things covered in this guide to you, perhaps not as well, but certainly often enough to be an issue. If you're in multiplayer and the other players know what they're doing in particular, you really need to care about counterintelligence. The main thing you need to worry about is your intel being leaked, which we just covered, your blueprints being stolen, giving them huge research advantages, increasing your resistance, and lowering your stability and war support. So how do you stop this? Counterintelligence again is based on the flat defense number from having an agency added to in various ways, from your passive defense agency upgrades, as well as agents on counter-intel missions. Do note that putting agents on counter-intel missions do stack, but it's not very efficient. Agent 1, for example, adds 1 defense, Agent 2, 0.5, Agent 3, 0.2, etc. Generally, it's not worth adding more than 2 at once to the counter-intel mission. In order to reduce the likelihood of enemies succeeding and screwing with you, make sure to get the agency upgrade at least every game. Missions are what you can assign any of your agents to at a given time that are not doing operations. They can be very strong, so avoid abuse in single player unless you want the game to be too easy. And remember, most MP rule sets ban or partially ban all of them. Counterintelligence is the simplest one we have already covered and is what your agents will do automatically and return to if not given other orders. Building intelligence network we have also covered. It's slow and best done with more than one, but really potent when available and required for almost all operations. Quiet intelligence network allows you to simply retain what you have built there, while massively reducing detection and capture chance. Boosting ideology allows you to push another country towards the outlook of your current government. Doing it in Germany as the UK, for example, at the start of the game will make them have a much larger democratic popularity outlook. Doing this is a great way to push countries away from your enemies in the early game or into your sphere and/or faction. It's normally banned in multiplayer due to its potency. Propaganda is straight up overpowered. It allows you to reduce the stability of another country as well as its war support before or during a war. It has a high chance of detection and capture though, so be warned. When I mentioned not abusing missions or single player will feel too easy, I'm mainly talking about this. Rooting out resistance is a great way to reduce resistance in occupied regions, which we will cover in detail shortly. Control trade increases the trade opinion of another country, making them, if they are AI, more likely to import resources from you. But overall, it's not the most useful, as this metric is not the strongest. Diplomatic pressure allows you to make countries more likely to accept non-aggression pacts as well as join your faction. In multiplayer to players, it makes it harder to join factions. This is a really odd one, but it definitely does have its use every once in a blue moon. I will not go over all the major operations in the game, which vary in cost and agents needed. Every operation requires a network in the target country of at least 15%, but oftentimes much more. When you are able to start one, click on Prepare. This menu will show you how many agents are needed, which you can then assign by clicking the flashing button and choosing which one. Make sure to pick agents which have relevant traits or a higher level to increase the chance of success. The outlook is how risky the mission is, as well as the chance of success. Hover over this button to see the chance of capture or killing of your agents, or a chance of a bonus outcome, which are very nice. Duration is the time it takes to prepare the mission, and last, the cost. When an agent has been assigned, you can continue. Every operation is given 3 phases, which are randomly chosen for each mission, meaning they will always be a little bit different. Which one is rolled will dictate the cost of the mission, as well as slightly the chance of success. Do note that after the preparation phase, you'll need to start it again to actually do the mission. If you don't want to have to come back and do it again, simply check the Commence When Ready button. If you want to do it over and over again, like if you're building a co-op government on an enemy nation, make sure to click the Repeat button as well. If you have agents on missions in another country, or if you put them on the operation, they have a chance to be detected or captured. A captured agent will be killed after a certain period, if not rescued, losing traits and levels. Infiltration can be done for civilian administration, army, or navy. Doing so opens up other operations, in particular, stealing blueprints. In addition, it gives you a 10% increase to intelligence on the area related to what you're infiltrating. You can do this in another country, which can, I guess, be kind of useful in competitive multiplayer games, but even then there are better things to focus on. Capturing ciphers requires you to have mechanical computing and a cryptology upgrade. This, if successful, adds 30% completion on your progress. It's a great tool, but not always needed. If you're in a big war with several big powers and are trying to get all of them decrypted to win the air and naval war, it can be a lifesaver. Orchestrating a coup allows you to overthrow the government if successful, but is very risky. You need at least 20% support for your own ideology in their country, which can be done by boosting ideology through your agents. Preparing collaboration governments are probably the most used operation in HOI4 and what most players use spy agencies for, besides stealing blueprints. There is a good reason for this heavy use, as succeeding allows you to increase your collaboration by 30%. Collaboration is interchangeable with compliance, which we will get into in the next section. But to put it simply, if you plan to conquer, make sure to do this on major enemies. Coordinated strikes are great for starting wars. If you have a casus belli on a country and can declare war, using this operation will start the war with you being allowed to bomb the port or hit a targeted region without them having any defenses up. Great for screwing up fleets in the early part of the game or supply lines while going to war if you're lucky. Stealing blueprints is one of the, if not the most impactful thing you can do with espionage. Technology is king in HOI4. It's what win you battles, wars, and everything else. Fighter 3 is early, getting a quicker tank design to ramp up production, or simply getting construction bonuses earlier, allowing you to outscale your enemy. In multiplayer especially, this is incredibly true. Stealing blueprints requires you to have already infiltrated the area you want to. For example, to steal an air blueprint, you need to do the infiltrate Air Force operation, etc. If successful, It gives you a 300% research bonus to a random tech that other countries have already researched. And yes, you are hearing me right, 300%, and that's just the normal result. You can get an extra bonus and get a 2-year or 1 year ahead of time as well. Obviously, this can be targeted. For example, Britain as an AI, or certainly as a player, will rush good fighters. Waiting until they get fighter 3s, then doing the Steel Air blueprint will give you the bonuses. It's weighted to year ahead of time, so you are most likely to get the bonus for whatever in the category is most ahead of time. Remember to be one behind when you get this like any other research bonus. You can't save it, and it has to be used on the next one. Let's say you steal a blueprint for fighters from the UK after they get fighter 3s, and you're still in fighter 1s. You will have to use it on fighter 2s instead of 3s, which is much less efficient. Get agents who are safe crackers, the blueprint stealing upgrade on your agency, and if you really want to have fun grinding these, get your spies to level 2. You'll pump them out super quick. There are also a few unique historical operations you can find on certain countries in the game, such as the Warsaw Uprising as Poland, which I will not cover. Let's move on to occupation and managing resistance and compliance. Whenever you go to war and take territory, as your friend pushes forward, hopefully, you will come into control of states which are not yours. Any state that is not a core territory, easily seen by clicking on the state and hovering over the flags at the top right corner, can be considered occupied. Even if the territory is annexed in a peace conference and a nation is at peace, it will be subject to the mechanics of occupation, specifically resistance and compliance. Like real life, people get pissed when you take their land. Resistance is not futile, nor fun to deal with most of the time. It can be anywhere between 1 to 100%, with the higher the number, the worse the consequences, as seen here. You want to get it as low as possible, which can be done, but takes time. Resistance operates in a similar manner to your spy network, in that neighboring states will be affected by it and grow over time. If, however, there is nothing increasing it, resistance does go down, though the base is always 35%. Your agents have a mission to reduce resistance. You can only cover a region, so you will probably need more than one, or stack more than one in one area to really reduce it as much as you need. Like most missions, they do stack, but every one besides the first reduces in efficiency to 50%. Other reducers include having a claim, being at peace, compliance amount, occupation laws, and a few others. These vary each, but all do reduce the compliance of the state. Compliance is the opposite. It gives you advantages in the occupied states. It's gained over time naturally and is a slow process. This is why collaboration governments are so huge during wars, especially for big countries. They stack, so optimally do 3 total before the start of the war, giving 90% compliance on states after you annex them in the peace conference. It's also worth mentioning that compliance in a state makes it cheaper during peace deals. Occupied territory requires garrisons to watch over. These are divisions that are not on the map, but use one of your division designs. How much is needed is increased by resistance and lowered by compliance. These divisions will engage in fighting if resistance gets high enough and will lower manpower and equipment. Hardness of the division decreases damage, so putting armored cars or tanks in them does have an effect. The MP support company also does increase their overall suppression and therefore effectiveness. Here are 2 solid templates to use in your games, one maximizing cheapness and the other reducing damage at the cost of equipment. To make sure it doesn't take from important divisions, go to the designer screen and make sure you have them on reserves so they get the worst equipment. If you're really hurting, you can even go to the equipment types and only allow old equipment. For occupation laws, which you use is dependent on whether you need to stop the bleeding or want to build compliance. Most of the time you want to do the latter, so take civilian oversight, which is a nice middle ground. If you're democracy, always take local autonomy. Cryptology is a reflection of decoding enemy communication, giving massively useful intelligence. Britain World War II managed to do this to the Germans to enormous advantage, and you should be no different. To start decrypting another country, get the agency upgrade to start off with. Once you get it, you can start decrypting another country immediately by going to the screen for it and left-clicking the country you want to target. After doing so, go back to it again and click the start button. Do not forget this, as it doesn't start automatically. You have a certain amount of points which can go up and down with each upgrade you take for your agency. You're able to decrypt as many as you want at once. It will split the total by the number of countries, decreasing effectiveness. When you decrypt a nation, you will get a notification after which the passive benefits are available. By simply having succeeded, you get a 5% air detection bonus, which is great for your anti-air buildings, as well as your planes in air war. Air detection when planes engage in fight in an air zone or would dictate what % of the enemy planes are visible and can therefore be engaged, a significant edge to have. It gives a 25% increase in interception missions, which disrupts ground targeting missions, such as close air support. A huge bonus to note as well, which is hidden in the code, is that by having a decrypted cipher, it also gives you a naval spotting bonus, allowing you to often engage a fleet first. You can also actively use this cipher, which will make you lose the passive and have to decrypt part of it again. Let me say here that this is almost never worthwhile and that the passive is just too impactful to make this worth it. It gives you a naval invasion penalty reduction, defense bonus against the country of 15%, and a 15% breakthrough. If you really need to hold a tile or win a naval invasion, this can be worth it, but 99% of the time, it's just not. I want to briefly touch on the upgrades you should generally try to take, especially early. Forming a Cryptology department is key as it gives you very useful bonuses in wars, but take a lot of time, so starting earlier is better. Passive defense just straight up gives bonuses to your defense. This is required in multiplayer and advised in single player as well. Suicide pills are strong as they reduce the general chance of detection and capture of your agents. Anti-partisan reduces resistance massively, so get both of these when or right before occupying territory. Interrogation techniques are huge for capturing agents messing with other agencies, as well as you're netting your agents more XP by capturing them. Briefly, I want to mention which nations are best in the base game for spy agencies, whether you want to have a fun espionage-focused game or in a multiplayer match and want to cause some chaos. For the allies, it's easily Poland, who gets an extra 2 operative slots and can continue to be an intel puppet master after capitulating and going into exile. In fact, its focuses for this require to be at high surrender level or falling entirely. For the Axis, it is by far Italy. They have the best espionage focuses in the game and are best for it, period. You can get a ton of extra operatives depending on your path, as well as some outright bonuses to operations which are unique. And lastly, for the Comintern, it is obviously the Soviet Union. Solon is infamous for his secret police, and the game is no different. You get extra operatives as well as straight up boosting to intel factor bonus. You get extra operatives as well as a straight up boost to counter intel. That just about covers everything. I hope this helped you understand intelligence agencies' mechanics and realize how useful they are. Consider leaving a like and subscribe if you liked the video. Longer tutorials like this are a lot of work to make, and there will be plenty more in the future. This was also a longer video for a subject I think many players overlook, so let me know if you actually made it to the end. My channel has a whole HOI4 tutorial series if you are learning the game, want to improve, or have big gaps in your HOI4 knowledge. I'm Hammurabae, and I will catch you later.